All right, good Saturday, everybody. 𝗟𝗶𝗳𝗲𝗍𝗶 here. Hope you're doing well on this Saturday. I'm going to address the most obvious thing here right away. I'm wearing a hat. Whenever I wear this, by the way, I wear this all the time, and people always ask me, "Are you cold? Are you cold?" Yeah, I'm cold. It's winter here in Minnesota. I think the official temperature outside is like 5 or 7 degrees without the wind chill. So I go with the beanie hat most of the time. So thanks for joining us here. We're going to have a fun little open mic session here. We may have a few guests. I think for surely one coming up at some point here, but did want to hop on here and just talk about the end of the year, man. Like, this is a great time of the year. I kind of have a love-hate relationship with this time of the year. I'm a fair weather fan. It is dark here in Minnesota, about 16 hours a day. I love 70 and sunshine. And so this is a little rough to take, but at the same time too, I'm learning to kind of enjoy and appreciate this time of the year, because this is like where it gets done, right? Like, this is where the rubber meets the road. You want to have an unrecognizable 2025, which is something I talk about a lot. It happens right now. This is the time. It doesn't happen on January the 1st. Feels like that's almost too late. You know, you start setting New Year's resolutions, and if you're just getting going on 2025 on January the 1, I feel like at least I feel like I'm a little behind the wheel. So as much as I don't care for the weather this time of the year, I'm learning to appreciate this time of the year as like, this is where it begins to really set the stage for who I want to become, this time next year. So it's exciting, and it's kind of the planning process. And this is where you can kind of really create the vision and start getting excited. Because like I said, once you start getting excited, if you start getting excited about the vision that you have, those emotions propel you and project you into your destiny. That's the whole point. This is deeper than goal setting. So some really exciting stuff. So we're talking about 4 power moves. What are 4 moves that you can make as you go into these last, 10, 11 days of the year? What should you do, or what can you do? By the way, just a super quick update. My platforms on Facebook and Instagram, I'm still locked out. My Facebook page is still gone. I can see my Instagram. I can't access it. There is another 𝗟𝗶𝗳𝗍𝗶𝗲𝗍𝗶 Facebook page out there somewhere. That's not me. It's like me holding a phone up to my head. That's not me. Don't interact with that page. And so I have a gentleman on it, a friend of mine who works in this space, and he is mildly optimistic that it will come back. And so whether it does or it doesn't, I have no expectations. We're going to keep rocking and rolling, plowing through. I will say, as we've talked about, those challenges really push you to expand and grow in other areas. I would say in the last 2.5 weeks, or however long it's been since I had my identity stolen, it has made me much sharper. I feel like I've become a better businessman. I feel like I've had to be more laser focused on what is it I'm trying to do and whom is it I'm trying to help, and be very laser focused in those actions. And I would say that I probably relied too much on just having a crowd on a couple of platforms to just kind of throw my message out there and let the business kind of grow from there, which isn't bad. But I feel like this happened for a reason. So still trying to process through that. And it's been a challenge, but as we've heard in the past, we should be flattered by our challenges. And you can judge the size of a man by the size of his problems. And so when you are faced with massive setbacks and challenges, good. That means that there's something really big in store. So that's a little update on that. Let's talk about some power moves for 2025. What could you do? What should you be doing? How should you be dialed in these last couple of weeks of the year? So 4 things that you can do to wrap up 2024. The first one is that you should be celebrating what happened this year. There's a great book by Dr. Benjamin Hardy called The Gap in the Gain. Boy, I just about lost it for a second. The Gap in the Gain. But he always talks about measuring backwards. High achievers want to always look to the future. We always want to be forward facing, and we never take that time to stop and pause and really recognize and celebrate where we come. The truth is that you've made some progress this year. Whether this year was like a stellar year, an unrecognizable year for you or not, the truth is that you grew, you expanded. And, it might not be where you wanted it to be, but you did. I mean, the truth is that if you look at pictures of yourself 10 years ago, you look different. You look at pictures of yourself 20 years ago, you don't know that kid, whoever, right? So there's just a natural evolution that happens with time as we grow and expand. Now, to what extent, that's a different story. But I think it's important to stop and pause. I'm wired pretty high frequency, so I'm always like bang, bang, bang. What's the next thing? The next thing? The next thing? So this is a little bit more of a struggle for me. For those of you who follow me, you saw me post pictures of this about this time last year. 𝗍𝗓 𝗟𝗧. You guys all know 𝗍𝗓 𝗟𝗧. 𝗍𝗓 𝗟𝗧 has a product called the big ASS calendar. Okay, I don't want to say it because I don't want to get kicked off LinkedIn or whatever for swearing or something. I don't know if that's a swear word, but like it's the big, what calendar. 3 words or 3 letters, starts with A, and it's got 2 S's in it. So we actually have this hanging on our wall, and we were really good about like looking ahead and putting like notes. He teaches you how to put sticky notes on all these different events and experiences and milestones. And we've tailed off a little bit in our discipline on doing that, but we're going to spend these last couple of week and a half of the year. I want to get together, and I want to actually go back and I want to go through our calendars, go through our cameras on our phones, and really fill in that calendar. Like really write in all of the milestones, all the things that happened, all the things that we did. And just take a moment and celebrate that. The truth is, a lot happened this year. It really did. Like I think back to some of the things that happened last spring. It feels like a year or 2 ago. And the truth is, it was only 6 months ago, 9 months ago. Okay, so like we're going to actually block off time as a family to talk about that big, calendar and celebrate. And what we actually do is we'll like screen share our phones to our TV, and then just literally starting with January 1. Just like scroll through the camera rolls, and there's things that you forgot that we did, and they're exciting. And then usually what we do is we go out for a celebratory meal to celebrate how far we've come, what we have done, and to get our minds kind of in the zone for 2025. So if you haven't done that, or maybe that's a discipline you've never done before, I highly encourage you to do that. Spend some time before the new year and go back and pause and reflect and celebrate and acknowledge what you've done. I look back to where I was a year ago, and I compare what I'm doing now compared to what I was doing a year ago, and it's kind of laughable. You know what I mean? Like it's like that's how far we've come. But yet at the same time too, I look back a year ago and I'm proud of that guy. Like that guy a year ago was like going after it and taking chances and risks that he never had made before, and what was dialed in. And so, in a year or 2, you'll always look back and kind of chuckle at what you were doing or saying, or the size of your platform, or where your business is and stuff. But, be proud and recognize the efforts of that guy or that gal a year ago to get you to where you are here. And I'm hopeful. I'm knowing that that's going to be the case now. I'm looking at what I'm doing right now. I'm very proud of what I'm doing right now. I'm proud of the message and proud of the business. But at the same time, too, in a year, I'll probably look back to this live stream and be like, what was he doing? Like he's sitting there with his hat on and his beanie in his living room, doing a live stream. And so, but that's what you have to do and recognize to make that happen. So I encourage you guys to check that out. All right. So the very first thing is you gotta recognize kind of where you have come in the process and celebrate that a little bit. Number 2, this is really important. You have to define whom you want to become this time next year. All right. I love the date December 31st. Over a year ago, I was dialed in as to whom I wanted to become on New Year's Eve 2024. And it's very, very powerful when you can see these things come to fruition. Being able to leave my W-2 job, being able to create a business revolved around speaking, coaching, mentoring, having a book, building a platform, building a brand, building a message that will take me and project me and my life into 2025 is exactly where I wanted to be last year, right about now. And guess what has happened? That has happened, right? So like, I want you dialed in. And if you haven't spent this time, by the way, I was really dialed in over like the entire Q4 of last year. Like I remember like being so dialed in and thinking to myself, my goodness, there's still like 7 weeks left in the year. Like I feel like I still got 7 weeks to like get in the game, like get in the pregame mentality before the game even starts. Just because of all the events, launching the book, the identity theft, everything, like like I really got focused. It's taken me the last week to really get focused on that. And so whether it happens today, tomorrow, New Year's Eve or whatever, like spend some time and get focused on who you want to become, not what you want to accomplish, but whom you want to become. Who you become is so much more important than what you do. Goal setting is great, but the vision for who you want to become, the inner man, how you want to think, act, and feel, that is really at the essence of this question. Who are you in your most abundant, optimal self? What does it look like when your superpower is being expressed in its fullest display for the world? How could you engineer a life, a business, a state of being around that superpower so you are in full expression and honoring your most authentic self? Those are also some fantastic questions to get at the core of whom you want to become. And so when I did this, I spent some time this last weekend and was just kind of like, I open up a Word, I have a Google Doc, and I have all of last year's stuff on there, and it's kind of just a one giant fluid document. And I just started like brainstorming, like, I want to be this. I want to take more chances. I am a person that is around people that are uplifting me. I am on bigger stages and have bigger opportunities to share my genius. I'm impacting more people. I'm caring less what people think of me. I'm not being held back by fear. Like, I'm kind of like almost amping myself up to creating this vision for whom I want to become. There are goals and priorities that follow that, but until that vision is created, it's going to be very difficult. I mean, having a goal of running a marathon, losing 30 pounds in the next year, that's great. But do you want to be a healthy person? Envision yourself as a healthy person. And then really like dive into what that feels like. I did a post on LinkedIn about this not too long ago, where it's like, I want you to be emotionally connected to that being. And if you envision that and you do not get a visceral reaction from it, meaning it doesn't bring you joy, peace, excitement, something that stirs in your soul, then you are not thinking big enough. And that's really important for people to hear. So I mean, like making a goal or having a vision to increasing your business by 10% and whatever, and that's a great goal, and I think that's a good vision for your business or your life or whatever that looks like. But if you mull on that and it doesn't give you this like deep visceral reaction where it's like, wow, like that would be incredible to wake up and to have that or to be that. If you don't have that visceral reaction, I would challenge you. It is not big enough. You have not thought outside of yourself big enough. All right. So this developing the vision is a massive piece to the puzzle. Number 3, third move you can make here by the end of the year. Get one more small win. Get one more win. Like close one more project. Check one more thing off the list. I don't consider myself in competition. I think lack says like, I gotta like get ahead of the other guys, like I gotta stay ahead of my competitors. When I was playing college basketball, we'd always say that, right? We'd be like getting our butt kicked on a Saturday morning, and our coaches would be like, your competitors aren't out here work. Like if your competitors are out here doing it, you're not working hard enough. Like we always had to be one step ahead of our competitors. Like if they were resting on a Saturday morning, we were not going to rest. Okay. Now I don't envision my life against other people in my space. So it's not from a competitive standpoint. It's really my biggest competitor is really the person I was yesterday. Like I just want to keep expanding and growing from that guy. Okay. But for me to do that, is there time to rest and reflect? 1000%. But there is something special, I believe, when the world does kind of feels like they just kind of take a breath. You know what I mean? Like we're going in the last week and a half of the year. Monday, for the most part, like Monday's not a holiday. Like really, I think the stores and banks are open, right? But you can kind of feel like this next week or two they're kind of throwaway weeks. And for those of you who are high achievers or in business, I would challenge you not to think of it that way. That doesn't mean that you just plow through and blast through the next 13 days of the year and, not spend time with family and chill. But like, don't waste these days. This is where like you get that competitive edge. And again, you're not competing against other people because there's plenty for everybody. But that's where you can you can really, in my opinion, like set the stage for almost your own thoughts and subconscious to be like, this is not a game. You know what I mean? Like where my head is right now, this isn't a game. You know, especially you want to get into that mind space, like get your identity stolen, you know, and then all of a sudden, like a week or two later, be like, okay, this isn't a game anymore. Like this is something bigger than this, and I'm ready to, like, it's game time, so to speak. So while I'm looking forward to having a little bit of downtime in the next week and a half, which is great, at the same time too, I'm like, what's one more thing I could check off the list before January the 1? Because it gives me that much more momentum as I go into January 1, 2, 3, and beyond. And the last thing that you can do is you can make a decision. I would challenge you to make a decision, okay? Like, deciding is such a powerful thing. I've used this on stage so much in the last 2 months. When you decide, you are like planting the flagpole, right? The root word of decide is side, is to kill. It is to like sever, cut off. That's where we get our words like herbicide and pesticide and, homicide, right? And so when you make a decision and you decide, you are literally saying to yourself and your subconscious, you are saying, this is the only option. I am cutting off and severing every other option other than this. I had a chance to speak to a local company, their leadership team, their sales team, and some of their workers and staff on Thursday of this week. And it was great. And we walked through kind of what I call my Life-Undeferred roadmap. It's a 2-hour workshop. And I really get people in this idea of like setting the vision, setting quarterly goals, priorities, all the way to the daily small wins, everything in between. And throughout the seminar, I'd ask people to share. And there was one gentleman in particular where one of his priorities was physical health. And then one of his goals was, I'm going to try not to eat as much junk food. And it had something to do with increasing his ability to eat better, eat cleaner foods. But he used the word try in there, and I challenged him. I was like, don't try, just do it. Try is like 99%. Like 99% isn't easy. To go 99% into something is not easy. But you know what's harder? You know what's actually easier than doing 99%? Going 100%. It's actually easier because you're cutting off all these other options. Like in your mind, it is a decision that is made, end of story. I'm not going to do this, or I am going to do this, whether I like it or not, whether I feel it or not, whether it's the most the easiest thing that's going to fit in my schedule. Like, this is a decision I have made, end of story. And when you do that, for one, you're actually making it easier on yourself. And B, you're telling your subconscious, you're telling yourself, you're telling the people around you, like, whoa, this is different this time. This is different this time. And the way that you show up will be the way that like other things like come into contact with you. Like you'll interact with your world differently when you decide. You ever like been around somebody who like they just made up their mind? Like they made up their mind. This is whom they are. This is what's going to happen. This is the game we're going to play. When you get around them, you kind of like take a step back, like, holy cow, this guy's serious, right? Like that person made a decision. It's one of the best things that you can do. And it makes, it puts the flagpole in the sand. Like, for example, for me, by the way, I'm not a fitness expert. I do not claim to be one. And that is that there are other people out there that do that. But I have made a decision in the last 2 years. I do not, when I eat supper, here in Minnesota, we call it supper. Most people call it dinner. When you eat dinner, that final meal of the day, after that, I do not eat a calorie. After that, I do not eat a calorie until I'm ready to break my fast the next day, usually around lunchtime. Okay. Now, some people they poo-poo intermittent fasting. They say it's stupid. There's no science that backs it. But you know what? It works for me because it makes me make a decision. If I was going to eat the same amount of calories, but I could eat them at any given time, right? Now, all of a sudden, I'm going to try not to snack at night. I'm going to try to eat better foods. Like, I know me. It doesn't work that way. What works for me is making the decision to say, when I eat that last bite of food at my dinner, I will not have another bite of food thereafter, because that forces me and my thoughts to make that decision. And as much as I want to have popcorn with my kids at 10 o'clock at night, because I love buttery popcorn, and they're waving it in my face saying, Daddy, can you want a bite? I will not do it. I've made the decision. It will not happen. So do yourself a favor. Make a decision here these last several days of the year. Where is the area that you need the most improvement? Or what is the area of your life that has the ability to expand the most? Make a decision. You're going to make the phone call. You're going to put the investment down to hire the person, right? I'm not going to drink anymore, whatever that looks like. I'm done dead scrolling. I'm done doing X, Y, and Z, whatever that looks like for you. Make a decision. Do yourself a favor. Go 100% in, because when you do that, it initiates the divine to then, like the divine now knows like you're serious. And then you will start to see the things happen in your life. I'm excited to have this guy back on the screen. I had to bring my boy Russ back because we did this a couple weeks ago, and it was just a really great conversation. So Russ,
it really was, man.
Hey, man, thanks for joining me again.
Hey, I loved listening to that last few minutes while I was backstage. And, it was great. I love what you're talking about, as far as making that decision, because a lot of people are lacking that decision in a lot of aspects of life, including me. Right? I mean, we all have our faults along the line, but you made the decision to, after supper, to...
Do you call it supper in California? What do you call it? Doesn't that sound like hillbilly? It sounds so hillbilly. Like, I've tried to get rid of some of like my rural mid-America sayings, and that's one. But my whole family calls it supper still. But when I say it now, it sounds weird.
It's so old school, man.
Yeah. But tell you're like your word. I loved it. I'm curious because I want to ask you some questions about this, but I know you because you're a good friend of mine. But like your word going into 2024 was intentionality.
Yeah.
And for you, that was so powerful for you. But talk about how that changed your mind, where it was like, this is what I'm doing. Come hell or high water, this is the direction I'm going.
Absolutely. When I was asked that question in December of 23 with Craig at coffee at the Hole in on the East River. He asked me that question, and immediately I didn't know what that word was. I hadn't even thought of a word. I mean, that wasn't even in my realm of thinking. I was asked that question immediately when I answered to myself. I didn't have an answer. Immediately the answer came in, which was intentional. And from that day on, it changed every aspect of my life. When I think of what you just talked about, making that decision, that was the decision. That word changed all of my decision making every single day. And the reason it does is because the moment that I wake up in the morning, Jared, the moment I wake up, the first word that I think about is intentional. What am I going to be intentional about today? What am I going to be intentional about before I even get out of bed? Maybe it's prayer. Maybe you drop to the floor and you do, some stretching, some yoga, but you're going to do something intentional to start your day out. And believe me, once you make that decision immediately in the morning, and you're intentional about something immediately in the morning, that sets the tone for the rest of the day. Because then I'm like, okay, I'm going to be intentional about what? I'm going to be at my meeting at 9 a.m. I'm going to work out at 11 a.m. I'm going to, you know what I mean? It's like all throughout the day. Or I'm going to eat this, and I'm going to be intentional about what that intake is in my body at the noon hour. Right. I'm going to get out and I'm going to get some steps during my lunch hour, because I'm, in the corporate world, and I'm going to step outside, or I'm going to go to the gym, and I'm going to be intentional about what that is. I'm going to be intentional about paying my bills. I'm going to be intentional about going through paperwork. It just, in every aspect of your day, have a plan. And the thing about it is, you don't have to complete all of the tasks in one day. Be intentional about setting an intentional plan. Right. That's going to help you along the path. Right.
Yeah. I love that, brother. One of the best books, and it's still one of the most profound books that had an impact on me, was Benjamin Hardy's Be Your Future Self Now. And I would show a copy to that world, but every time I get a copy, I end up giving it away. So I never have a copy on hand. But he has a chapter in there talking. I think the title, I think it is, because I don't have a copy of my in front of me, but it's something to the effect of the Pied Piper has to get paid. And so the premise is that everything that we do you are either putting a deposit in yourself today or tomorrow or your future self, or it's a withdrawal. But no matter what, everything you do today, every decision you're faced with, because you get a choice in everything that you do. Everybody on this call, you get a choice on how you're going to react, what you're going to do from here. You are faced, whether you believe it or not, you are faced with literally hundreds of decisions.
Yes.
And you can choose here or you can choose here. I always get frustrated when people say, like, I just got no choice in life. Just it is what it is. And you are in such a disempowered stance when you don't believe that you have choice. The truth is you do. And so every choice you make with what you do with your time, what you scroll on Facebook, what you put into your body, phone calls you make, emails you make or don't make, everything is either a deposit or a withdrawal and where you're headed tomorrow. And when I read that chapter a year and a half ago, it was so profound. I think about it all the time. That's the thing, Russ, guys. Like when I have made a decision that I'm not going to eat after supper, and my kids are eating tiramisu last night, and I wanted to have it. I love tiramisu. We're celebrating my son's birthday, even though it was a week ago, and I didn't have it. Why? Because I knew I want it, and I will have some today. Don't get me wrong, but like I knew if I have that, I'm going to wake up this morning regretting it, knowing that. And so it's like we have to have this future forward thought of like if I have this beer, and I'm not poo-pooing drinking, you know what I'm saying? But like if I do this or spend money on this, it's either helping me become the person I want to become or not. It goes back to this idea of intentionality so beautifully.
It's so true. And food intake is difficult for people, and not only like the amount or the volume, but what it is, right? What it is. It could be nightly ice cream. It could be nightly cereal. It could be nightly potato chips, right? It could be, there's all kinds of things, or it can be a granola bar. It could be fruit, right? It can be granola. Like there's different choices that we can make that's going to impact our body and the way that we feel, whether it's later that night or the next morning when we wake up. We feel like a glutton, right?
Yeah.
And so it's really kind of taking steps of action. A friend of mine, he's about 6'1.5", 6'2", and he was about 3 bills, man. He's 300 pounds, and he took the initiative. He's like, when he goes to Hawaii, which they do at least once a year, he goes, when you're in Hawaii, you can't be overweight. Like when you're on the beach, you want to go swimming, you want to snorkel, you know what I mean? It's just too much, right? You're just carrying too much, and it's hanging over your waistline. So, he's like, I'm going to be intentional about this. And he shared with me later, after he had already dropped like 20 pounds, and now he's up to about 42 pounds. And his brother, who's like 350 pounds, has just lost 40 pounds, not through surgery, just being intentional about what he eats and how much he eats, right? And we're going into, we just finished Thanksgiving. Now we're going into Christmas. There's going to be plenty of food and treats and everything. When are you going to push away from the table? How much are you going to load up onto your plate? So be intentional about it. You can spread this out. You don't have to be, punish your body and indulge in this massive plate. You can spread it out throughout the day because you're going to be there all day, right?
I love that. And that again, what you're talking about is taking on a whole new identity, a self-perception. It's more than just like, I'm trying to diet. It's like, it's really taking on that identity. And I think that's what the driver is. Before you popped on, Russ, I was talking about like, creating the vision. If you haven't done this already, like create the vision of whom you want to become on December 31st, 2025. And I know that you likely have done some similar mental exercises like this, but like what comes to mind for you, or how do you answer that question when defining your vision for a year out from right now?
So when I'm defining my vision, right now I'm in the framework of mind of looking back at 2024. I'm looking at this. I'm looking at like who made an impact in my life. Who are people that I met? Who are people I need to just let go and spend less time with?
Yeah.
Right. Who are people that are sapping my time? And I need to intentionally spend a little bit less time with them. Right. Yeah. And who do I need to invest more time with? And who do I need to receive more time with? So these are things, and then looking at the way that my life goes on a daily basis. How do I spend my days? I mean, weekly, I'm meeting new people. I'm connecting with new people all the time. And just because I connect with them doesn't mean I'm going to have this deep relationship with them. You can tell when you get on the phone or you're on a Zoom that when you connect with people, what kind of person this is, and if you're going to want to invest more time, or if I'm just going to say, yeah, let's collaborate, but it's going to be a little bit more kind of a distant collaboration. Yeah. So it's those kinds of things that I'm looking at for 2025, because I kind of went open, even though I was intent at the beginning of the year, I kind of went open-ended, like, okay, let's see what 2024 is all about, right? And it just started happening and happening and happening. Now I'm more intentional about what I want to plan and what I want to do and who I want to become for 2025. Yeah. And taking steps, personal steps that are going to help me get where I want to be at the end 1 year from now.
Yeah. What is that like for you? I know you got an event coming up,
yes.
coming up at this next spring, which I'm excited about. I'm actually gonna try to be there. I need an excuse. Don't take that wrong. But I need an excuse. You're not my excuse to go that direction. By the way, Russ lives out in Santa Cruz, which is a place I'd always love to visit. But you've got an event coming up, which is awesome. You're building out your movement, which is incredible. What other bold moves are on your docket for next year?
Yeah, I'm going to be in Pittsburgh in late January. I'm going to be speaking to 100 to 125 coaches. And Jared, I've got to stop right there, because you and I have had dialogue about this, and you know exactly what I'm going to say. What now? Right? The day after, what now? I've already been starting to think about the event is on January 25th. I'm already thinking about, what am I going to present? What am I going to say in conclusion that's going to impact January 26th with these 100 to 125 coaches, right? Building in a plan of what now. I don't want that feeling that you had on November 20th, because I had that exact same feeling last year in June when I said, okay, I've launched these books. Now what?
Now what?
Right? Now what? And so I don't want that feeling. So, to answer your question, so, that's part of that, but I've got a couple of books that I'm working on. One is in alignment with what, they're both in alignment, but one is more in alignment with what I'm already doing. The kids books called Today that I've already put out. There's 6 of those books. Those are really family kids books where, parents are going to read, or first time readers, can read the books, and learn to practice, because they're large books, they're animated, they're colorful. But those are for young kids, but the message is very, very clear. You got to get outside and spend time together with your family doing activities. The manuscript is what I'm working on right now to produce for this coming spring. The manuscript of why we need to get out and do it. And this is an adult read. This is a book that's filled with all types of activities, filled with all kinds of thoughts, and really detailing what you can do with your kids, and going in depth to really explore more outside, not just be outside, but explore the outside. Right. Yeah. And then another book, which is for me, and I think is going to be a game changer for a lot of people. And I'm super excited about this book. And it's just really about changing the way that you think each and every day when you come in contact with people. How do you see other people when you cross their paths? Or what do you do in your community? Or what can you do with your friends? Or what can you do in your mindset? So it's going to be a powerful, powerful statement also coming out in the spring. So those are really, 3 or 4 really big things that's going to happen in 2025.
Good. You got a lot going on, man.
A lot going on. And a podcast. I forgot. I've got a podcast starting January 7th called Dual Coast Podcast with my band, 𝗙𝗶𝗳𝗲𝗍𝗃. And so that's going to be airing January 7th, every Tuesday, 8:30 Eastern Time, a.m., 5:30 here on the West Coast. So I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be every Tuesday. So there's a lot happening.
We got to have you back on here so we can kind of keep up to date with you. I got to talk with you every week just to kind of keep up with you, man. Holy cow. By the way, Russ, the guy, I joke with him because I used to be on TV. This dude's on TV more than I am. Every time I talk to Russ, he's on another. He's somewhere on TV. I was like, I need to get my butt on TV just try to keep up with my boy Russ. No, I don't look at it that way.
Oh man,
one of the things I just talked about. One of the things I mentioned before you popped on was like, you're not in competition with other people, but you always feel like the last 2 weeks of the year, you feel like this little release in intentionality, to use your word, that everybody kind of just, there's this lull, or this like, you can feel people pulling back a little bit, just kind of coasting here the rest of the year. We're kind of done. And I don't like that. I don't subscribe to that because I'm a doer like you. And so I find myself a little bit in a conundrum where like I need to just kind of pull back and enjoy this time for what it is, be present. Yes. But at the same time too, like what's one more thing I can knock off my list? You know what I'm saying? Like what's one more win I can get? One more phone call. And it's not to be in competition with other people, but like I actually get more motivated when I feel the world kind of doing this. That actually, it kind of like picks up the intensity for me. I made one more phone call and secured a spot with a company to redo my brand, redo my logo. They're going to take care of my website. It's hopefully going to be out by the end of January. So excited. That's awesome. And that was on my docket for 2025. And here we are a week and a half before the year. Bam, contract signed. Like I'm working through the pre-work, and like we're rolling. And to me, that isn't like, it's not scarcity. That's not like, oh my gosh, I have to hurry because January 1's coming. That's like, what's one more piece of momentum I can give myself into 2025? How do you feel about these last 2 weeks of the year?
Yeah, I would probably say in the past, I was probably in the coast mode, right? I would just kind of coast through it, spend, like you said, be present with the family. We're going to spend quality time together. And at that point, I'm, going to relax and be with the grandkids and be with the kids, my mom and extended family. That's all going to be a great time. And to me, family is so valuable. So I'm going to be present for all of that. But around that, I'm constantly every day thinking about what can I do? Because I'm also rebuilding my website. So I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking about the details of January 7th and our launch of our podcast. I'm thinking about January 20th and going to schools and speaking to the coaches. And so I'm working on that message. And, I'm constantly every day doing something for the event on May 18th here in Santa Cruz. So there's just every day I'm trying to chip away at something, right? And it could be a phone call. It could be an email. It could be, whatever detail it is, but it's something along those lines where I'm actively pursuing knocking off something that's going to elevate me to another level. I mean, I spent a lot of time over the last several weeks because once I got this speaking engagement at the end of January, I spent time cold calling schools, right? Hey, this is Russ Rogers, and I'm an author, and I'm a speaker, and I would love to come to your school and share, right? And, I had one lady hang up on me, like, okay, I wrote rude in my notes and said no. So, it's fine. You're going to get no's and you're going to get a lot of people say, I'll email you back or, email me and I'll email you back. And so, I was just ingrained in this every single day because I had to be intentional going forward because I wanted to take advantage of the time that I was there. I'm going to be there in Pittsburgh. So it's just looking at that and how can you take advantage of the day, be in it now, but making sure that what you're doing now is setting you up for a greater success in the near future.
Yeah, I love that. And it goes back to, again, the Pied Piper is going to get paid. So every action or lack thereof, is going to either be a deposit or withdrawal in yourself tomorrow, the next day, and beyond. And so, again, I just want to encourage people watching this, like, give yourself every shot, man.
Absolutely.
And again, it's not you against your competitors. It's you really against you. It's you against your current self. Really, that's kind of how I face it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, I'm not my own opponent, but at the same time too, it's like, how much farther can I expand in this next 365 days? Can we get to a point where you are completely unrecognizable? I was talking about that before you hopped on. And it was kind of funny. Like, I was looking at some of my stuff from a year ago, and it's funny. It's funny, like, because you're kind of like, oh my gosh, that guy didn't know anything. But I'm proud of that guy. Like, he was stepping out, right? And so when you do that, when you take these steps like Russ talking about, like just one more little win, one more phone call you can make, it creates that separation between your current self and where you're headed. So when we're having this exact conversation on December 21st of 2025, and you look back, because I guarantee you, we'll look at this video and be like, I can't believe I wore that. I can't believe like he's doing a live stream in his living room, and his kids walking around back here half the time.
And he's still calling it supper.
So I still call it supper. And but that's the journey.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's the fun. And
it is.
And so what an opportunity we have. So again, just another shout out to you and what you've said here. Like spend this last week and a half of the year and see what's another notch into the belt you can get. Because again, it's that separation growth. It will just project you much farther, faster once you head into the new year. It's just spectacular, man.
Well, you and I have had just great time since August. Spending time every Tuesday morning together on a Zoom. And when I look back at these times and seeing the process of yourself, writing your first book and launching that out, and seeing the progression of yourself, there's a couple of ways that you can look at that, right? Because I've launched my books, right? And there's more to come, and maybe you have more in your future. But now it's like, I look at you and I see your success and I see what you're doing. And it's like, okay, I can look at that two ways, but the most important way that I can look at that is, what can I glean? First of all, what can I support Jared and his movement and what he's doing? But what can I glean from him? What little nugget can I take from Jared in his life, or Sal or Craig, that I can glean from, right? That's going to help elevate my game in my journey in writing what we call our movie. So those are important things,
Absolutely.
and so I applaud you greatly, man, because I've really learned a lot and gleaned a lot from you in these last months, going into your book launch and even after, and the difficulties that you've had. But, there's just so many great things that are happening for you, even as a result of what has happened to you. Right. And so that's the beautiful thing of this. Like there's more ways to skin a cat. Yeah. And you're scanning it, man. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. Likewise. I'm inspired by you, and having, by the way, here's a little side nugget too. Get people in your corner as you go into 2025. You've got to have people in your corner, and you've got to have people to rely on. And so, watching guys like you and having other people in my corner like you, Russ, and other people as well has been huge, because I know me, right? Like when the heat is on, and your identity is getting stolen 2 weeks after you launch a book, and your platforms are taken away, and like old Jared would have like reared his ugly head and started like freaking out, and now living in total like hoard and scarcity mode. And I didn't. And then it was really interesting to see what happened thereafter. Not long. It was really, I'll just share this with you. Like I've probably created more business in the last 2 weeks, not having two of my biggest platforms because of it. And so not only has that generated faith, I've had to sit in the uncomfortable and get smarter. Yeah. And I'm so much better. So if and when they come back, what a phenomenal thing that has happened because of it. And but it took people in my corner to like keep Jared like tamped down, don't go into freak out mode, which is what I wanted to do. So I appreciate that. Let's start to wrap this up. What I got to ask, what does Russ do in Santa Cruz, California on a Saturday morning?
Man.
What are you gonna do? I want to live vicariously through you. So tell me, what are you gonna do next?
Oh man. So I wanted to play volleyball this morning, but we've got rain coming in about an hour and a half, and we started around 8:30. So there was only one guy that was signed up. So this morning I'm gonna yesterday I had a great garage workout. I'm gonna get on a Peloton this morning, and I'm gonna get a great sweat in, to start my day, and do some stretching. Do a little bit of reading. I'm probably going to wrap some presents today, because last year I made the huge mistake because I have my two kids who are local plus my two grandkids. So I come in, and I'm Santa Claus at night once the kids go to sleep, and so I deliver these presents. But the problem is that I didn't wrap, right? Talking about unintentional, I didn't wrap until the day before, Christmas Eve, and I think I spent like 9 hours that day wrapping presents. Huge mistake.
Rookie mistake.
Huge. I'm just like, oh, I got time. Oh, I got time. Oh, I got time. No, I don't have time. It's today. I got to get it done.
Oh, boy.
So, you know, knocking that out. But my publisher, it's her birthday. And so I'm going to drive up to the city next to San Francisco, Pacifica. I'm going to go up there and I'm going to spend the evening with her family and friends and celebrating and honoring her. So I'm going to probably head up to San Francisco today and do some last minute shopping and round it out. I'm pretty much done, about 98%. So yeah, I'm gonna take advantage of the day, and even if it's raining, I'm gonna be outdoors and enjoying it and having a great time and celebrating with Indiana.
I love it. What do you think of my hat?
I love it, man. It fits you well. Yeah,
think so?
The background, everything, man.
Yeah,
in your house.
This is not virtual. Yeah, all that.
That's awesome.
See how this window is like pure white? It's because it's snow outside. You know, so
I don't want to.
That's the color of Minnesota. That's the color of Minnesota. It's either black because it's dark 16 hours a day, or white because there's snow.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Well, I don't want to reverse my I don't want to reverse my camera and show you what's behind me.
Don't do it. Yeah. Old Jared's gonna come out. You do that. All right, brother. Hey, have a great day.
Man.
Have a great weekend. We'll talk soon, brother.
Thanks, man. Yeah, appreciate it, Jared.
All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed. These shenanigans here today. I just made a full post on my Facebook. I wish, on my Instagram page. No, LinkedIn page, talking about the 4 things that you can do. Your 4 power moves here as we go throughout the rest of this year of 2024. So hope you enjoyed. Thanks for hanging on if you're still with us, and I appreciate just listening to a guy sit here and chat about what's on his heart. So I hope you enjoyed. Have a great rest of your weekend. And from now, we're going to keep doing these every Saturday and see what comes of it. But I hope you enjoyed our conversation, especially here with Russ. He's a good guy, and so much good information and good people out there with so many good ideas. If you can get them in your circle, in your posse, man, it can really, really help you out. So have a great rest of your day. Love you guys. We will talk soon. See you next time.